You know, in any endeavor that we do in our world, in our lives, that we want to improve in, we have to practice. And our Tai Chi is no different. We do need to practice. The thing that I want to bring up today is there are many different ways to practice, to spice up your practice, to help you understand more deeply your Tai Chi, just to have some fun with it. There's lots of different reasons to be practicing. It doesn't always have to be serious, I'm going to get better, I'm going to be perfect, because we all know that perfection isn't really the goal, right? We do our Tai Chi to get the benefits of it. So I thought today we'd spend some time talking about and examining different ways to practice. One of the first things that you can do in your practice time is do your form at different speeds. Think about going as slowly as possible. We talked a few weeks ago about music and Tai Chi, and we talked about slowing our motion down, using a favorite song to maybe start the form and then time the ending to be right at the end of that song. So we can work on speed. We can actually go the other direction and not necessarily do your form as fast as you can, but think about the martial arts application of the movements. And instead of doing our brush knee like we do, nice and slow and gentle, think about actually hitting something and blocking something. Think about with part the wild horse's mane, separating your opponent's energy, making it go two different directions. Do each of the movements at a faster speed. Think about your repulse the monkey. When we do repulse the monkey in the form, we're nice and slow. Think about your opponent in front of you and push him away from you. Do each of the movements at a faster speed, thinking about that martial arts application. Of course, you can do, and I encourage you to do the whole form and just apply an individual principle. Do the whole form thinking about being rooted and grounded. Do the whole form thinking about moving from the Dantian. But you can also take individual movements and go through all of the principles. Take, for example, part the wild horse's mane. You can just do part the wild horse's mane and think, are my shoulders in harmony with my hips? Are I keeping my columns intact? Am I using my rotation? Is my stance stable? Am I rooted and grounded? Am I allowing my Dantian to be the leader? Am I allowing my body to relax and using my delicate lady's wrist and thinking about the continuous motion? So you can use one movement and use all the principles applying to that one movement. The ward-off sequence is a great one to do that with because it starts with the basis of that continuous movement. Thinking about, am I rooted and grounded? Am I staying within my columns? Do I feel my weight shift? Do I understand my substantial and insubstantial? Am I thinking about my opponent? Keeping my columns intact. Practicing just the ward-off sequence with all the individual principles is a great way to help your body absorb and understand how those principles affect the movements in Tai Chi. Of course, thinking about continuous movement, which is one of the principles. We want our Tai Chi to flow like water. You can also do the form in such a way that you start and stop and really examine what your body's doing. let's think about if we started with preparation. I might want to stop here and see if I've lifted my shoulders as I'm lifting my arms, because we don't want those shoulders lifted. Think about here, and then let your body sink. And then very slowly, think about your substantial and insubstantial and just stop holding that ball. Don't worry about going on to part the wild horse's mane yet. And then think about part the wild horse's mane. Did I use my rotation? Am I rooted and grounded? Did I think about my breath as I did that? Are my shoulders still in harmony with my hips? Maybe I just do one part the wild horse's mane that way, and then I step up into my white crane spreads its wings. Is my left foot truly empty? Just stop and examine. Again, are my shoulders in harmony with my hips? Am I suspended from the crown of my head? Am I using my Dantian to lead that rotation to go into my next move, brush knee? Stop. Examine yourself. It's a great way to practice because you can truly take note. You're not just mindlessly going from one movement to the next. You can also visualize the form, which is surprisingly good, where you don't actually move, just stand, close your eyes, and see yourself go through the form. And then do the form. Do the form the way you saw it in your head. And you'll be surprised at how that translates into an easier, more graceful movement. There's another fun thing that I like to do. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with students. Let me get a bowl just a second. And I have this bowl, and in this bowl are little sheets of paper, little Post-it notes, that have the individual movements, the names of the individual movements. And I'm just going to randomly choose 3 of those pieces of paper. And they stuck together. And if I read what's on each of these 3 pieces of paper, Fair Lady works the shuttle, ward off, and pheasant stands. So now my challenge is I always start with my opening and my preparation. And now how do I incorporate those 3 movements into a very flowing form? Well, maybe I start off with that ward off. That's an easy way to flow. Start off with ward off. Maybe I want to only do it on this one side of my body. And then I have to do pheasant stance. Coming into my pheasant stance. Then perhaps I step down and turn and do pheasant stands on the other side. And then step down into my Fair Lady works the shuttle. And maybe I do it just like the form, Fair Lady works the shuttle. And then I step up, hold the ball, and do ward off on the other side. Now I haven't forgotten about the underlying principles, but what that does is it really challenges my brain to understand the transitions. How do I smoothly transition in between each movement? If you're an instructor and you had a class, this is a great way. You just pass around the bowl. They each take 1 sheet of paper, and then you name off a person and they say, okay, our first move is brush knee. And the whole class has to do brush knee the way that one person says. Maybe it's 1 brush knee, maybe it's 3. Then the next person says, okay, we have to do ward off sequence now. And then the next person goes and says, oh, we have to pick the needle up from the C bottom. And as a class, you figure out those transitions. And that's a great way. It's a fun way. Everybody's laughing, trying to figure out what are we doing here. And but understanding how a form is put together in such a way that it flows. Let me put my bowl down. I'm going to grab my chair. And I would like, if you can, find a chair yourself. And we're going to do the 24 form seated together. We're lucky that we're able-bodied and that we can stand and do Tai Chi. When we're able-bodied like this, we don't think about doing it in a chair. There are some people that need to do it in a chair. But the interesting thing about practicing in a chair, even if you're able-bodied, is you really have to think about what principle am I using? Do I understand my weight shift? Am I understanding my rotation? Am I using my rotation? So if you have a chair, sit and bring your feet just comfortably about hip width apart, sitting on the edge of the chair. You don't want to sit back in the chair. You want to be on the very edge. And let's do that 24 form. First, think about being suspended from the crown of your head. Let everything fall naturally into alignment. Let your body relax. Bring your hands down. Take a nice deep breath in. Breathe it out. And now preparation. Breathing in, not letting those shoulders lift. Breathing out. Holding that ball. Stepping out with my left. Part the wild horse's mane. Am I overreaching? Am I leaning forward? I'm breaking my columns. As I'm seated, I still have to keep my shoulders in harmony with my hips. And then shifting that weight so that my right foot can step out, part the wild horse's mane. One more, part the wild horse's mane. Then I'm going to make my weight come to my right because my left foot needs to be empty for white crane spreads its wings. Leading from my Dianne to let that rotation happen around my central column. Step out, brush knee. Again, think about leading from the Dianne, keeping those columns intact, brush knee. Brush knee. Stepping up, play the guitar. Remember that left foot is actually empty because now you're going to do your repulse the monkey. Step back with that left foot, bring the right foot forward, using your rotation as you go through each of the movements, thinking about rotating on your central column. One more. And then you're holding that ball and stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Think about moving from the Dianne. And then bringing your weight over to the left, stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Letting that weight come over to the right as you bring that right foot back and single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Now your feet aren't actually moving in this, but you have to think about as I go right, my weight goes over the right column. As I go left, I'm bringing that dantian over my base of support. As I go right now, forming a bird's beak and single whip. High pat on horse, kick smash, and box the ears. I still have to think about being rooted and grounded as I bring my weight over to my right and kick left. Forming that bird's beak, stepping out, snake creeps. Then bring that left foot in so you can root it and come into your pheasant stance. Then stepping out, snake creeps. Bringing that right foot in now, root, pheasant stance. Bringing your weight over to the left, stepping out, fair lady works the shuttle. Bring that right foot back, fair lady works the shuttle. Then root through your right side, let that left leg be empty. Pick the needle up from the C bottom. Come up, block, fan through the back. Bringing that left foot back, stepping out right, deflect. Bring the right foot back, intercept, and punch. Left foot goes forward, pushing chi. Then returning the tiger to the mountain, gently bring those feet back in and close. So it's a different way to practice because you really have to think about which move is next, because it's not automatic for your brain because you're seated, and how am I applying those underlying principles? So the last time through the form now, we've done this before, but we're going to do the inside out form. And this really connects that brain work. Remember, we do Tai Chi for the benefits. So when we're practicing, we do want to challenge our brain. When we do the inside out form, it's very challenging because you have to think about what piece am I adding where and how do I get through it. You'll understand as we do it. So inside out starts in the very middle of the form with the ward off sequence. Stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing your weight over to the right, back to the left, stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Nothing's different yet. Coming into a single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Think about leading from the dantian, bringing the dantian over your base of support. Single whip. Now what comes before the ward off sequence? Repulse the monkey. Stepping back. And ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. As you do this more familiar part, start to think about adding principles, letting your dantian lead, thinking about your opponent. Coming into your single whip, wave hands like clouds. single whip, high pat on horse. Now what comes before repulse the monkey? Play the guitar. Repulse the monkey, 4 steps. And ward off. You get really good at doing the ward off sequence, doing the inside out form. Bringing your weight over to the right, back to the left, stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back, rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing your weight over to the left, back to the right, forming a bird's beak, and single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Forming a bird's beak, single whip. High pat on horse. Kick, smash, and box the ears. Turning, kicking left. Snake creeps. Pheasant stands. Think about what comes before play the guitar. It's brush knee. And what comes before brush knee is white crane spreads its wings. Step that right foot down, turn over your left shoulder, and white crane spreads its wings. Coming into brush knee left, brush knee right, brush knee left, stepping up, play the guitar. Repulse the monkey. Ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing the weight over to the right, back to the left, stepping out, ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing your weight over to the left, back to the right, forming a bird's beak and single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Single whip. High pat on horse. Kick, smash, and box the ears. Turning over that left shoulder, kick left. Snake creeps, pheasant stands. Turning, snake creeps. Pheasant stands. Stepping down left and stepping out right. Fair lady works the shuttle. Fair lady works the shuttle. What comes before white crane spreads its wings? Part the wild horse's mane. Step up with your right, hold the ball to the right, and part the wild horse's mane. Part the wild horse's mane. Part the wild horse's mane. White crane spreads its wings. Brush knee left. Brush knee right. Brush knee left. Stepping up, play the guitar. Repulse the monkey. And ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Coming in to ward off on the other side. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Coming into a single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Single whip. High pat on horse. Kick, smash, and box the ears. Kicking left. Snake creeps. Pheasant stands. Snake creeps. Pheasant stands. Fair lady works the shuttle. Fair lady works the shuttle. Pick the needle up from the sea bottom. Come up block. Fan through the back. Turning, deflect. Intercept and punch. Oh, but there's a move before part the wild horse's mane. Turn over your right shoulder and preparation. Part the wild horse's mane. Part the wild horse's mane. Part the wild horse's mane. White crane spreads its wings. Brush knee left. Brush knee right. Brush knee left. Stepping up, play the guitar. Repulse the monkey. Last time you have to do the ward off sequence. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Coming into ward off on the other side. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Coming into your single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Single whip. High pat on horse. Kick, smash, and box the ears. Kicking left. Snake creeps. Pheasant stands. Snake creeps. Pheasant stands. Fair lady works the shuttle. Fair lady works the shuttle. Pick the needle up from the sea bottom. Come up, block, fan through the back. Deflect, intercept and punch, pushing chi. Return the tiger to the mountain and close. So clearly with the inside out form, I take it at a much faster pace, but you don't have to. You know, if you really slow that down, and that was almost 15 minutes at a fast pace. If you really slow that down and focus on your movements and keeping that flow going, you can practice for 20, 25 minutes and just be doing that one form. It's great for your brain. It's great for your body. Let your body fully relax. So think about practicing with that inside out form sometime. Think about practicing seated. All those little ways to practice should help refresh, renew your practice time so that it's not just, I'll just go through the form a couple times. I want practice to be renewing to you, to your body, so that you start to get the benefits of Tai Chi. Hope you enjoyed this today, and I'll see you next week. We're going to talk about the basics of balance. See you then.